up, what up, what up? Welcome back to the Two Goat Show. We're your hosts, Miriah and Steph. Steph, happy Thursday. What's up? How you doing?
Happy Thursday. I am good. We are winding down like the 30 visit stuff. So, the job's not finished though. There's still a little more work to do with my draft sheet between now and the draft, but we're getting close to the finish line here.
Yep, it's almost time, man. Draft is almost here. I'm excited. The 49ers actually have a first round pick, so we can actually, get into the draft on the first day this year. The last couple years, it sucks doing draft day shows. Like we go live for the entire draft, right? So the entire first day, we're just like sitting there pretty much like, oh, this is fun for everybody else, like, and finally we have a first round draft pick. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what the 49ers do there. Something, the news that's every day seems like something comes out. I just did a show yesterday and there's already new stuff to talk about with Brandon Aiyuk. And it's just really crazy, the stuff that's going on right now on social media. Let's kind of like back it up a little and, go through the stuff and then I'll kind of get your thoughts on everything that's going on. For those that didn't know, a couple days ago, it's account. So let me give a little backstory on this guy that's putting these tweets out. His name's John. People have done searches on him and, like in other databases and found out like he was worked on taxes for like the last 15 years. He's from New York, nothing to do with sports on his anything, right? But all of a sudden now he has a Twitter page and says, in his name is football, his like under, where it tells about you, says some crap that he has to do with football. Nobody knows that any of that is true whatsoever, right? So he comes out and starts saying that like the whole Brandon Aiyuk to the Steelers, he had tons of tweets to come out about that. And every day it seems like he's just coming out and putting more tweets out. So recently his tweet was that it was breaking. The Pittsburgh Steelers believe they are on track to trade for Brandon Aiyuk per Noah Strackbean of All Steelers and Jarrett Bailey of SB Nation. The article states, according to a team source, the Steelers would be surprised if a trade didn't happen. Right? So there's that. There's, he came out, he's the one that broke the news that said, Brandon Aiyuk has officially requested a trade from the 49ers. Brandon Aiyuk's agent came out and like retweeted that 4 days ago and said, you need to find better sources. He has now came out today. Let me get exactly what he said here so I don't misquote him. Mr. Ryan Williams, which is Brandon Aiyuk's agent, as well as a good friend of John Lynch. Chase Sr., he put out a video today, kind of pretty much summing up, that tweet about that, the Steelers would be surprised if Brandon Aiyuk wasn't traded, yada, yada, right? So Ryan Williams then shares that video from Chase Sr. today and says, another report that couldn't be more incorrect. Fictional journalism should really stop. So there's that, right? Let's kind of get your thoughts on that, because then I want to kind of take it back to Brandon Aiyuk and the other wide receivers that are up for contracts right now. But so that I'm not rambling forever and ever, let's kind of get your thoughts on where all this rumors and, Brandon Aiyuk's agent coming out now twice and saying something like, what are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Well, I haven't given any credence to John Fraschella, or however you say his last name, any of his reports. And I mean, he's doing a lot of talking. He's very loud just to be wrong, in my opinion. In about a week, all that is going to be proven to be incorrect. And so, I mean, that's his reputation on the line. To go back to, the fact that he he hasn't really done anything in sports prior to I guess all these tweets really coming out. I follow him on Instagram. Sorry, not Instagram, on Twitter. I followed him there for some time before he started like spewing this stuff. Um and I'll just say, like, I don't think what someone's like day job, I don't think that takes away from someone having sources or not. I mean, I would hate for someone to look me up and just because I have a 9 to 5, be like, she must not have sources.
No,
But
but you have a lot backing you up, showing that you know what you're talking about.
that being
He's
said,
spewing from 32 teams. You're
yeah,
working
I'm
with
not.
one team. It's a completely
I'm.
different situation here.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, despite all that, I still don't think any of what he's saying is true, and it's just kind of crazy because yeah, Chase got the brunt of it this morning, right? Because he got quote tweeted by Ayuk's agent, but the
Mm-hmm.
report came from John. And I know what Chase is doing. He's a content creator as well. He's just relaying what he's hearing. I get it. Like, he's putting it out in the video. Make of that what you will. I know some people like don't like that kind of content, but um, you know, people blaming him, like, that's wrong. It's all on this one dude. All the reports that Brandon Ayuk's agent has like refuted to this point have come from this guy. And so it's been pretty ridiculous. I'm glad that Ayuk's agent is like shutting it down. You every time there's like an extension happening, the Debo situation got a little dicey as well, but we didn't really see Debo's agent like clearing things up
Exactly.
or anything like that. So then the question is, okay, why is Brandon Ayuk's agent feeling like he needs to, clear the record on any of this? I think that's interesting. But I am reminded that Brandon Ayuk's agent, Ryan Williams, is like basically best friends with John Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
John Lynch was at his wedding, even. So it could be a favor to John Lynch. It could just be a favor of, hey, I'm going to keep this negotiation and everything that happens around it and all the reporting around it. We're going to keep it cordial as much as we can. Um, and so I know Ayuk has done some things to kind of spice things up, you can say, but I think as much as he can, like, his agent is trying to, keep it from getting under control, because I think he respects John Lynch
Mm-hmm.
enough to, not make a circus out of the situation. So I think that that's part of the reason. And I think it's a good sign. Like, obviously, Ayuk's agent and John Lynch having this good relationship outside of football clearly is a good sign that there's enough respect there. And it gives me even more hope that something's going to get done eventually.
Right. I saw, Chase Sr. coming to, as he, like you said, he's getting the brunt of all this. A lot of fans are coming, leaving comments under his post and whatnot. And I saw that he keeps, even you had shared something and he put the same remark under your tweet. And he's saying, like, oh, well, the agent wants, like, he's going to put whatever out there to make his client look, the best, yada, yada. And I see a
Mhm.
lot of faithful coming, and this is how I feel about it too, like, to the argument of, like, wouldn't you want, because remember, Debo's agent was working with other wide receivers that were up for contracts at the time, remember? So, like, you're putting out there, like, oh yeah, this team wants my guy, this team's interested in my guy, this team's interested in my guy, to try to raise the value of your client, right? So, like, for your agent, and like you said, we didn't see Debo's agent coming out and say, no, none of this is true. I can't remember off the top of my head ever seeing an agent come out and putting out multiple things now saying, no, this is not true. No, this is not true. Like, because you want it to seem like teams want Brandon
Yeah.
Aiyuk, right? Because that's
Yeah.
raising his value. So to come out and say, no, he doesn't, no, he's not saying that he doesn't want to be traded. No, this team doesn't want, there's no trade talks there. Like, is kind of like the opposite of what we normally see from agents. So yeah, the whole situation is kind of strange. But like you said, hopefully, like I'm hanging on to that too, that relationship between him and John Lynch. Like, please, if there's anybody that, they're going to work harder to keep there, that if John Lynch really wants Brandon Aiyuk there, right, as part of his team, I think that agent's probably going to do whatever he can on his end to try to, keep things good there. Some more, kind of tying back around to, the whole thing that's going on with Brandon Aiyuk and other wide receivers, that are either up for contract extensions, or whatnot. Like you got T. Higgins, right, who's under a tag right now because the Bengals refused to trade him last season or pay him last season. And now they tagged him this season to keep him there, or, who knows what. Obviously, we know Jefferson, there's Lamb. Darius Slayton's now come out into the news that he's not showing up for any, voluntary stuff at the moment either. So all those guys are right now holding out. They didn't show up to no voluntary workouts, no voluntary anything that's going on with the team. As far as we know, Brandon Aiyuk has showed up. He put out an Instagram post saying, day one, whatever, made it like he was off to school. He went, like he had his backpack and everything. And I haven't heard nothing coming out from 49ers beat writers, the team, national media saying otherwise, that Brandon Aiyuk is not there. Yet, even remember that guy, Pretty Ricky? He's made like 10 new accounts now, and keeps
really?
putting out all this NFL. Yeah, all
I
this
need to
NFL
find out what his new account is, because
I have it. And so today he put
I
out,
really like this guy.
he retweeted the Chase Senior video and says, Steelers are not in the race to land Aiyuk. Washington, New York Giants, and New England are the teams most likely to land him. Okay. And under that, a New York Giants, I don't know if he's a beat writer or something to do with the New York Giants, maybe content creator, who knows, had put, well, why don't, since Darius Slayton's not happy in the Giants and he's holding out to get paid, and Aiyuk's not happy, this is what they say, why don't we trade the two and the 49ers get a second round pick and Slayton for Aiyuk? Okay, so there's that. Let me ask you about that. But what keeps driving me nuts about this whole situation is that every single day that I log into social media, Aiyuk this, Aiyuk that, Aiyuk wants to be traded, Aiyuk this team, that team. Yet you have all these other wide receivers available or not available, who knows, but they're not showing up. They're waiting for a payday. And yet you don't hear their names in trade talks whatsoever. You're not hearing that Jefferson's going to be traded. You're not hearing nothing about CeeDee Lamb. I haven't heard one single peep about CeeDee Lamb. And yet, Aiyuk this, Aiyuk's going here. Aiyuk's now going to possibly be traded to 4 other teams. Obviously we know the Jaguars hold ties to Aiyuk. Like all offseason, it's been Aiyuk this, Aiyuk that, Aiyuk this. Yet there's other wide receivers, even better wide receivers, some will say, right, with Jefferson, who doesn't even have a quarterback on his team right now, and yet not one single peep about him being traded.
I think part of that has to do with, one, the fact that the 49ers are this loaded team that have a bunch of big contracts already. So a lot of people see them as low-hanging fruit of not being able to keep Brandon Aiyuk, right? Whereas I think some of those other teams who do have, those pending contracts, they have some room to work with. But I think the 49, like everyone sees the 49ers as like, they can't pay everyone, right? Like that's just like the easy thing that even casuals like latch onto with the 49ers. That's all they know about the 49ers. And then also it's a little self-inflicted by Brandon Aiyuk, right? Like him coming out and, stirring the pot a little bit, tagging Mike Tomlin, his friends or close family members, saying certain things immediately after the season ended. Yeah, that spurred a lot of talk right off the bat. And so all it takes is that, and then a report here and there, whether it's true or not, to really get going for it to kind of fuel the fire, really. So, but I don't, really put a lot of credence into any of it. Like I said, I think it's par for the course. And I mean, I guess we should be flattered that so many people are interested in Brandon Aiyuk. It's definitely not surprising that a lot of teams would be interested in him.
Want to say what's up to some people real quick. We got Breezy in the house. What's up, Breezy? Good to see you. We got Coach Desi. What's up?
Desi.
Make sure that if you guys aren't already, that you are subscribed to Girlfriends and Football. Great content over there. And obviously, it goes without saying for Breezy, I'm sure you guys all should be subscribed to him by now. If not, then you're missing out. And make sure you get your asses over there. Speaking of Breezy, look what I got right here.
Hey, that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't wait for the draft to just get here. And once that, day 2 of the draft comes, I think, they don't trade him for less than our first round. So I'm feeling pretty good after the first day of the draft, but it's for sure once that second round is over. Okay, Brandon Aiyuk, if he doesn't get traded by then, I'm thinking he's staying, because there's no way they're going to trade him for something for next season, like next year's draft, right? Like that would be absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I'm just like I tell you guys from the beginning, even before the season ended, like this specific player was going to be harder for me than any player up for contract talks up until this point, because BA is my guy, right? Like I'll be fucking sick to my stomach if I have to watch him play for somebody else. So all this, like unfollowing the team, like even though I kept telling myself this is coming, like get ready, we've seen this now, multiple players do this, like it's coming, prepared myself. It didn't make it any easier, guys. So,
he's making it interesting for you too. He's keeping you on your toes.
Like, man, like I feel like, like you're being cheated on out there. It's like, oh. The NFL announced today, if you remember I want to say it was maybe as preseason or training, maybe it was during training camp, even like early of last season. The NFL announced like a whole shitload of players were being suspended due to betting in the NFL, right? Like betting on the games, like a bunch of players. And then, obviously it was coming out after that, oh, this team released that player. So there's now the NFL announced today that they're reinstating 5 players who were suspended indefinitely last year for violating the gambling policy. Former Lions wide receiver Quintez Cephas, I don't know, safety CJ Moore, and D-line Demetrius Taylor, as well as Commanders wide receiver Shaka Toney and former Colts linebacker Rashad Berry. It looks like the only one that is currently with their team still out of those 5 is wide receiver Shaka Toney, because that's the only one that doesn't say, former, whatever. Mm-hmm. So are any of those players, do you think that, any of those players could fit here? Like, it's not like they were out beating their wives or, something that they have some character concern like that, right? That I think that would keep them away from becoming a 49er, right? Or they're out there DUIs or, stuff like that. I don't know how the 49ers will look upon, players that have been suspended for gambling, but let's just say, they don't give a shit. Any of these players, do they stand out to you as somebody that might be able to compete at any of those spots?
No, and frankly, like I do think that this would be something that, one, based on the offense and based on, I guess, their level of play to this point, wouldn't really wouldn't move the 49ers to make a move on any of these guys. And I mean, I think sure, you can say it's not a character concern, but I mean, I think it kind of is. Like that shows a bit of a lack of integrity, for the game. And, it's not a good look for sure. So, whether or not those players would do it again, I hope they would have learned their lesson, right? But I think Calvin Ridley would probably be the the only guy who could be able to come back, and a lot of teams would still be interested in him. But based on some of these names, no, I'm not really moved by any of them.
What do you the chat's talking about Sweat. He's a defensive tackle, right? Obviously we know that he recently got some DUI, something with DUI, and I heard that he was extremely over the limit of intoxication. Do you see him dropping down boards now? He's somebody I don't think the 49ers will take a chance on with something like that.
I don't
in the
think they
background
will
for sure.
I don't think they will either. There's a couple of other things there besides that I think would keep them from, wanting to make that move. I know that the 49ers obviously do need a defensive tackle. We'll look to draft one. But I feel like there are other concerns as well. Like, he's a massive dude, which, you should be able to look at that and be like, it should excite you, right? But I think there's other factors there that I don't think, like, he helped himself out, for example, in his, I think it was at the combine, his combine testing. And so there doesn't seem to be a balance. Like, if you're going to be a really huge guy, you have to be able to be athletic as well. And like, so he's missing that balance.
Like
I
Trent
think
Williams.
he does. Yeah. Like, I think he needs to drop some weight so he can get some of that, I guess agility and explosiveness back. But he looked kind of sluggish out there, if I'm being honest. So I think dropping some weight would probably do him some good. But until he does that, I don't know. Aside from maybe some of those character concerns, I don't think the 49ers would really be interested in him.
Yeah, I agree. And he was like, he seemed like, obviously, like you said, he needs to lose some weight, he needs to get faster, he needs to get this, that, whatever. But I know that he was on a lot of people were talking about him prior to this coming out. I'm not sure what other concerns there were, prior to the DUI stuff, but he didn't seem like scouts weren't talking about him, like he was still getting talked about. But now I noticed, like yesterday when we did a mock draft with Tony from Nothing But Niners, he fell way down the boards. Like, he was way down the boards, so I'm like, maybe we'll definitely see. But like, man, there's no excuse for freaking driving intoxicated. Like, no excuse.
Right. Yeah.
Like, there's so many options these days. Like, back in the day, like, people had to say just screw it, and they would just drive because you didn't have Uber, you didn't have Lyft, you didn't have all this other shit. And then especially like when, like, it pisses me off even more when it's somebody that's making millions of fucking dollars and you can't pay to have a driver, you can't pay for somebody to drive you. Like, hey, we're going out partying tonight, like, let's get a driver, let's, like, the same. It's so easy, pick up an app and freaking pay for Uber. Like, you can't afford it. There's no fucking excuse. So yeah, and it just seems like every single year we're hearing about stuff like this, whether it's the racing or it's like these guys coming out of college, like you guys are almost there to make your dreams, like a reality. And then you do such stupid shit, it's just like, man. I know that they asked about the DTs. Have the 49ers met with any DTs besides Michael Hall? I also wanted, I know that there was 49ers had a lot of 30 visits this week. They did some virtual, meetings. Kind of talk to us about, who the 49ers have met with this week.
Yeah. So on the question on any other defensive tackles, Mike Hall was one of them. I know in my tracker, I had a lot of guys as defensive linemen if their spot on the line was somewhat ambiguous, but I just updated that. I was just looking at the athletics draft guide. So yeah, I updated some of those. So I'd say Evan Anderson out of Florida Atlantic FAU. projects to be more of a defensive tackle. He's probably going to end up being a priority free agent. And then Brandon Dorless, I still have him as defensive lineman just because I think he plays inside outside, or he has that versatility to be able to do that. Probably projects more as a defensive tackle, but again, with the versatility to be able to play outside on some snaps as well. And let me see here. No, those were it as far as defensive tackles. Now in my tracker, like I only have 21 names in there, right? There's 9 missing. There's 9 players that the 49ers met with that we probably won't learn about leading up to the draft or even after, unless the 49ers end up drafting one of those players, right? So I think that explains why we haven't seen a lot of first round guys that the 49ers have met with. I think they have. I think they've just done a really good job of keeping those under wraps. And so defensive tackle could potentially be something they target at 31, maybe in the second round. There's definitely options in the third as well. Johnny Newton would be a hot name for 31 if he gets there. The 49ers did have someone at his pro day, which was a personal pro day for him. It happened like earlier this week, I want to say. I think it was the 16th. So, yeah, he had 22 guys at his pro day. As far as some of the others, the updates that I made, Brendan Rice and also Jamal Hill from Oregon, those are 2 guys who had been kind of widely reported that they were going to have 30 visits with the 49ers, but Matt Barrows confirmed those ended up not happening with those 2 guys. But 49ers did meet with Brendan Rice, formal interview actually at the Combine, and the 49ers met with Jamal Hill after Oregon Pro Day. So, there's still some contact there. So not enough to, I guess, rule those guys out completely, but I did remove those as being top 30 visits. And then we learned about a few more today as well from Matt Barrows. Bub Means from Pitt. Also offensive lineman Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame. The 49ers love those Notre Dame offensive linemen. And then edge Chris Braswell from Alabama, who's pretty nice pass rusher as well. So those are 3 guys that we learned from that we didn't have before this morning.
I like it. Yeah, Collie, what's up? I'm seeing Kingsley's name thrown out there a lot around the 31 spot. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think he definitely can be an option. I get the sense that maybe NFL teams aren't as high on him as maybe fans are. So I think he can probably get into the early second round. But, I believe the 49ers second round pick isn't until towards the end. So because of that, they might, feel comfortable taking him at 31 if that's someone that they like. But I just don't feel like the 49ers are going to reach on need, and so I think it's more likely they go with a tackle rounds 3 and 4 potentially. They met with Caden Wallace. Blake Fisher is a guy that we know is a visit. So if you look at the trend there, those are guys who are projected to be in that range, right? 3rd, 4th round. So that's where I'm kind of feeling it's most likely that they'll target a tackle rather than at 31.
What position now after almost everything pre-draft, the meetings, like you said, we probably won't find out about the others. So after all this info that you've gathered and put together, where are you leaning? Like what position group for that first pick?
I think I have to look at the 49ers history, and the history tells me that they like to go defensive line. And so I really do think that that's where they'll go, whether it's like an edge rusher or like if one of those top defensive tackles ends up there. I could definitely see them making that move. I mean, they definitely need another defensive tackle beyond 2024, right? So I think I could definitely see that.
Man,
I know.
Twitter.
I know. But I'll say this: I also wouldn't rule out wide receiver, and of course tackle. Like, but I'd probably say in that order, like defensive line, was it what I just
Wide
wide
receiver,
receiver, and then
tackle.
offensive tackle.
Speaking of wide receiver, the 49ers brought back Trent Taylor. What are your thoughts on him coming back? And what, like, do you think it's a camp body? Do you think, like, I think it's just an emergency if one of these young guys, or if we don't draft somebody for the return job, doesn't step up and win that job throughout camp. Like, at least we know that, okay, we got somebody that can at least stand out there and fair catch and not drop the ball and cause, stupid shit to happen. So that's where I'm kind of at with it. Who knows if he really even makes the team. But I saw a lot of fans pissed off. They were mad at Brad because Brad put out a hype video for Trent Taylor. So yeah, what are your Trent Taylor thoughts?
I mean, it's a feel good story. Obviously he was a favorite of fans when he was here. Definitely a favorite of George Kittle. So it's cool to see those guys reunite. And really, like, I think a lot of us wonder what Trent Taylor could have been had he not dealt with those foot injuries like early in his career. That kind of derailed his time with San Francisco, right? Otherwise I feel like maybe Kyle had a certain vision for him that
Yeah.
could have happened. But he's been around, right? He was with the Bengals and with the Bears, I believe. And he was reliable for both of those teams as a depth guy, but very reliable as a returner, of course. And that's something that the 49ers need. So just because of that alone, I think he is probably right now a lock to make the roster. It's early, right? It's April,
Yeah.
and this is pre-draft. But I think that's they want to shore up that position and have a guy who can be reliable, and he's exactly that. So for that reason, I do like it. Again, I don't think it takes it keeps them from bringing in a return specialist. In fact, after this, I'm doing my show to talk about some return specialists that could be a fit for the 49ers in the draft. And so I think they do still target that. But yeah, I think Trent Williams is just kind of
Trent
also a
Taylor.
safe option for them. And it's not a bad safe option. I think it's a high end one, and I think he can maybe even stay on the roster even if they do draft a guy who has that special teams return experience as well. So I like it. I think it's good. Feel good story.
Yeah, I wasn't mad at it. And man, like his rookie season, I really thought like he was gonna be like, a great slot court, like
Right?
slot wide receiver
We're
for us. And then,
saying.
like you said, those injuries just but I mean, I think I haven't really like paid too much attention to when he was with the Bengals, and I think he was last with the Bears, right? But like I don't think I remember him like no big injuries happening, or nothing like that sticks out, since he's been gone. So hopefully, he's managed to stay healthy. And yeah. You want to go shout out to Corey Soto? We appreciate you. You want to read this for us, Steph?
I think there's a typo here, and so I'll try to say what I think he said, because he did have a comment earlier that I think was kind of in line with what he's trying to say here. In regard to BA's agent, I think feeling compelled to, come out and call all these reports false. Shakespeare said it best: "Thou do protest too much. It's strange. If it's nothing, ignore it." Yeah, we talked about this right off the bat. Like, it is a little weird and different to have an agent actually come out and refute these reports. It's not uncommon that these reports exist
Right.
for a player that's due for a big money extension, right? And teams that are probably interested in said player. But you don't see the agent come out and say that's not true. So what I kind of chalk it up as is the friendship that Ryan Williams, Aiyuk's agent, has with John Lynch. I think they probably have some sort of agreement or just like this mutual respect to keep everything cordial, keep the situation as clean as possible. And so not letting, reports like this get out of hand, right? And I feel like it was starting to get out of hand. I don't know if it's just because we're in 49ers Twitter or what. We're kind of in a bubble, right? But I think by shutting it down, it ensures that he keeps everything within the negotiation clean and not getting out of control by like all this outside noise.
Yeah. I agree. Again, thank you, Corey. We appreciate it. All right. Let's do a few who would use and then we'll get out of here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So the 49ers call up Steph Sanchez and say, we're giving you 4 30-minute interviews with 49ers players of past and present. Who would you pick for those interviews?
Okay, definitely Joe Staley for one of them, just because I think he has a great personality. It's not going to be awkward. He's not going to give me one-worded answers or be short with me. It's going to be a fun conversation. So that'll definitely be one of them. You said 4?
Yep.
So I think I'll
2
go
past, 2 present, maybe.
Okay, I'll go Brock Purdy. Like he's such an interesting guy. Like I don't know, the way he perceives himself is very, or presents himself very like, I don't know, like stone cold kind of, but like also soft. Like I don't know, he's just got this interesting like character that I kind of just want to beat down a little bit, peel the onion back and see what he's all about. I think he's a great guy. Jerry Rice would definitely have to be one. I think he's a fun guy as well. He has a great relationship with the fan base, I think. So also someone who I'd be pretty confident would have like, great answers and all that, great character. Wow, for my last one, so 30-minute conversation about just anything or
whatever you want.
I feel like there's got to be like an older player that I'm gonna go Frank, man. I'm gonna go Frank Gore. One of my favorite, 49ers players of all time. I just feel like he also has a great personality. I think he's real. Like I could hearing him talk, seeing him, I just know he's a real dude, and I'd probably also get some great answers from him as well.
Yeah, definitely I'd pick Frank as one of mine as well, because like he's the reason, like I was a 49er fan, but I wasn't like into footballs like that much at the time. But Frank like made me fall in love with football, like just watching him, watching him run, just plow through guys. Like he just didn't give a shit, like doubted from the very beginning that with the ACL injuries, like he wasn't going to be anything. And to just watch like his career after that, like is amazing, like to stay in the league as long as he did after people thought he would be injury prone his entire career, like is amazing. So definitely would want to interview him. All right. So who would you invite to dinner, but it's your treat?
That sounds like a terrible idea. Like, do I have that much money? I know how much these dudes eat, man. Did you ever see that video on it was on Instagram, and I think it was Colton McKivitz it was one of the offensive linemen talking about like their in and out order. Brock went first because it was like this little like interview in some Toyota truck that they're like talking about it. Brock goes first. It's kind of regular, like okay, like a dude would order that for sure. And then in comes the offensive lineman, and he gets like I forgot what he said, but it was like a triple something. He gets like 2 of those as like a side or something, like a snack. I was like, what? Like that's insane. So I know these dudes could put a lot of food away. Wait, okay, so I pick the player or I pick where we eat or both?
No, the player.
Okay. Definitely not picking an offensive lineman. I don't know if my my pockets
And we've
can't
seen
handle
too, like,
that.
when the rookies like have to pay for dinner, like they show the rookies bill after they pay for dinner. It's like some outrageous meal because everybody orders some crazy ass shit, like all this food, and it's expensive.
So is the purpose of this meal to sit down and chat it up with the player, or is it just like I'm literally just buying the meal?
Whichever.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, so this could be an opportunity for like an interview with the player as well. I'm actually going to say Nick Bosa because I feel like he can eat a lot, and I know I say Nick Bosa for a lot of things, but for the obvious reasons. He could eat a lot, but he also eats very healthy. Like he takes care of himself. So he's not going to go all out and like order everything off the menu. It's going to be real controlled. So it'll probably be just a regular kind of meal, but just a lot of protein and healthy stuff. So I think I'd go with Nick. Yeah. Yeah, Ty said Robbie
He's an
Gold.
older guy that probably doesn't eat that much.
I was debating like one of the either Mitch Wisnowski or Jake Moody. Taylor Pepper. I don't know. Taylor Pepper looks like he can put down some food. So I'm gonna go. Well, I already made my pick, but I thought about either those two guys as well.
I'm picking BA because he's kind of skinny. He probably doesn't eat too much.
He's pretty slender.
And they got him working at Applebee's and shit now, so maybe he needs a meal. I gotta help him out.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was funny. The customers are just like looking at him like, you look so familiar. Like, and the name that they gave him like was something so funny. I forget what it was, but oh my god, that was funny. If you guys haven't seen the Brandon Aiyuk works at it was Applebee's, right?
Yeah, Applebee's.
Yeah, works at Applebee's for the day. Definitely make sure you search that on YouTube and check it out. It's pretty funny. All right. Who would you invite to an interview? It has to be a player's wife. So which wife you think would have a good interview to sit down and be able to spill all the beans?
I mean, I think a lot of us would choose Kristen Juszczyk right now. Like I just want to pick her brain on obviously how she got started. I'm sure she's told that story a million times at this point, but I think it would be interesting to kind of learn about that. Claire's a good one too, Claire Kittle. But I think there'd be more to talk about with Kristen, so I would choose her.
Yeah, I'm going with oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on her name now. With what is
who's wife?
Fred Warner's.
Oh yeah, Sydney.
Yeah, Sydney. Thank you, man. Because now, yeah, she seems like was kind of weird about her before because, and I've told this story 1,000 times, I know, but when we went to an autograph signing that Fred Warner was at, while he's signing, and I didn't know who his girl was it was, wasn't out there as much like anything about Fred Warner's wife, or I think they were still his girlfriend at the time, actually. She's like sitting there like on this bench, like kind of like to the side of him, but I'm watching other girls come up like as they're getting their autograph by him, and she's just there like giving them dirty ass looks like that Chrissy.
Isn't she a Latina?
Chrissy. Yeah, she is.
I was like, well, Chrissy, that's a lie.
Like she's a 49ers content creator, Chrissy. I forget what her last name is, but especially her, and I got a picture of it. She went up there to get Fred Warner's autograph, and yeah, she's just there like giving her the dirtiest freaking looks, like, and like she was close enough where like she was trying to hear like any conversation that went on, like like he kind of made it like uncomfortable, and it's just like, man. But now that we've seen her, like, they've gotten married and all this, and now they have the podcast, and so she kind of like you could tell at the beginning of the podcast, she was like more quiet, and as it went on throughout the season, like she started talking more. And so I think it would be awesome to catch up, and just pick her brain about stuff. She seems pretty cool.
Yeah, and I didn't know that about her, but it's gotta be so difficult to like date an athlete. Like that's not for the weak. And like I said, she's Latina, so she, she's always, probably giving the side eye to any girl talking to Fred. I respect it, honestly.
Yep. What's up, John V? All right. One more, and then we'll get out of here because I know you got a show coming up. So recently, Steph got engaged. For those that don't know, you get to invite 5 49ers to your wedding. Who's coming?
Who can dance?
Present,
like
whatever.
Who's got the dance move? Well, definitely Jerry Rice, man. I gotta have the GOAT at my wedding. One, for the content, but also like two, he'd be a good time. Like and I know he can dance still. He'd be busting moves on the field. He'd bring his rings too. I know that for a fact. So I definitely got to invite Jerry Rice. I got to invite Kittle. If he brings his wife, that's a good time as well. Like they're cool, fun people. I want to say Debo because I know Debo can dance too. And he'd definitely be in it if I throw on some Lil Baby, some rap music. He's definitely gonna be feeling it. He'll get on the dance floor. I got 3. Joe Staley. Like that's always anytime that it involves like there being some kind of like conversation or just anything that's kind of like more intimate, like with friends or family. Joe would be definitely the top of the list. Man, this gets tough to like think of other guys because I know I always feel like I forget of some people. I'm gonna go Emmanuel Sanders. I think he's a cool guy as well. I think he'll dance. That way Debo has like a receiver friend with him, and they could just like dance and all that. Was that all of them? Did I?
Yep.
Okay.
I like Emmanuel Sanders. He seems like he'd be hella cool to hang out with, and too like as an interview, like that guy's hella smart. Yo, like I could listen to him talk football like all day. Like
I swear to you not that I saw him at the airport one time, like, and I was catching like the parking shuttle. Like I had to make my shuttle, and it was right there, so I was like rushing. But I swear I saw him, and as I'm like getting onto the shuttle, I'm like, wait, like I think that's Emmanuel Sanders, and I'm pretty sure it was him too because it was in the like limo pickup area, like I don't know, private car area. And it was just such a fleeting moment that I didn't even stop to think, but the whole like time, and even to this day, I'm like, dude, that was Emmanuel Sanders. Mind you, that was the year, the 49ers were in the playoffs. It was 2 seasons ago. I was flying back from one of the games, actually. It was like a Monday, I think. And at that year he was on Good Morning Football, right? I think he was on one of those shows, so he was probably like flying in or out for one of those because he lives in Colorado, I'm pretty sure still. I don't know, I think it was him. And in my head I was like, dude, like I could have asked him for an interview right there on the spot, like asked him a couple questions. Yeah, it still like eats away at me a little bit that I didn't say what's up. But
Ty's, I'm not having Steph answer this, but it is funny that Ty is trying to start trouble to see which content creators you're leaving out from your wedding. She don't want to invite none of you.
No, I'm not,
You
I
all
mean, I'm
suck.
not, you
And
know,
none of you can dance either.
unless you paying for your own plate, because I know that shit's expensive.
Bring your own beer and your own plate. All right.
There you go. There you go. You can
All
you
right,
can come
Steph.
as long as you do that.
What else? You got another show right after this. Tell the people what you got going on.
Yeah, so Steph 49K on YouTube, on Twitter, y'all know where to find me. Instagram even. I'm gonna be going live to talk about return specialists that the 49ers could potentially draft. And you know, obviously there's a lot of return specialists or guys that have that return ability, but I'm kind of going to be looking at it as these are areas of need for the 49ers. Plus, these players have, you know, return ability. So it's kind of like a plus. So yeah, a few number of guys that I'm going to be going over. So make sure you guys check that out if you're into that kind of content.
There you go. Yeah, I'm done for the week. You guys know I'll be back probably next Wednesday with TL and Tony from Nothing But Niners. And then me and Steph will be back next Thursday. Same time, same place. We appreciate everybody that tuned in. The chat been going crazy the whole show. Thank you guys so much. Please make sure that you guys like both videos, subscribe to both channels, Steph 49K and 49 Faithfully. I couldn't even remember my own damn channel name. On YouTube, we greatly appreciate it. Shout out to all of you. Everybody have a safe, wonderful rest of your week and a great weekend. We'll see you guys next week. Well, I'll see you guys next week. Steph, we'll see you guys in a few minutes. We're out of here, Faithful.
Peace.